Chamath, anti-portfolio, what sticks out?
I have a huge
Airbnb.
anti-portfolio, huge.
Robinhood.
Airbnb at $1 billion. Obviously, I actually did invest. I agreed to invest, but then I got into a huge public snafu with Chesky because he was taking a bunch of money off the table, and then we ended up not even finalizing the investment.
And your letter was published. Your email that you
leaked.
sent him.
My email was leaked. Yeah,
it was leaked.
So I was really pissed when they did that. But anyways, that was a decade ago. Not much has changed, I guess. There is one thing that above all others, which is sadly also in my portfolio. So my portfolio, my anti-portfolio is the same thing. You can guess what it is, but that's Bitcoin. At one point, we controlled low single digits, mid single digits of the entire float. And had I held on to that, that's talking about, a mid-deca billion-dollar position.
Yeesh.
So my anti-portfolio in the unrealized gains or losses, if you will, on Bitcoin, is in the many tens of billions of dollars.
Yep, mine is clearly Bitcoin as well, because I was reporting on it when it was 10 cents, and I was one of the first journalists to write about it and talk about it on my podcast. And I had like maybe 10 of these Bitcoins in a wallet of that was Mt. Gox, and it got hacked and it all went away. And then my wife bought it at under 200. And so now we have a joke in the house that my wife is going to, because of her incredible trade, because she saw it as well, return more on her. It's conceivable she'll return more than my entire investing career. So shout out to Jade for getting that one.
Actually, I made that mistake too that Chamath made of not hodling enough long enough. So that is
Did you guys
painful.
see? Did you see this article? I fished this article out, but in 2014, I was buying land at Martis Camp in Lake Tahoe, and I told the sales guy there, Jeff Hall, I said, "Hey, listen, I'll buy this lot if you let me buy it in Bitcoin," because I wanted to promote Bitcoin as a transactional infrastructure. So we went to a company called BitPay. They wired it up, and I bought it for $1.6 million in Bitcoin. That was 2,800 coins, which right now is worth 140 or 150 million dollars.
What are you going to build on that lot? Are you going to put your?
I don't even own that lot.
You should make it a grave. You should make it a grave plot. You should just.
Well, my ex-wife owns a lot. I hope she enjoys it. But I'm saying,
you literally could have bought the Knicks, Lakers, and the Warriors and been the majority owner in each. All right, let's take another question. What's the number one macro uncertainty or risk you guys are most worried about for your investment portfolios?
There is only one, and I think it's inflation. But I think it's important to understand where inflation is coming from. The single biggest risk to all of us is what's going to happen in the following order of operations. So I think all of this sort of coming out of the pandemic, basically what you're going to have is like 4 or 5 major trading blocks in the world, right? You have China as a standalone. You have Europe as a standalone. You have America / North America under Biden. I think it could be more North America as a standalone. And then you have these sort of what I would call random, friends with benefits. Africa, South America, Japan, Korea. Okay? But those are all bit players to these 3 huge trading blocks. Everybody was going to go and they're going to go and get vertically integrated. So it sort of builds a little bit on what David said. Like, you're not going to have, one central place where you get this thing, basically, i.e. China, that you ship on a boat to get over here for a whole host of reasons, national security, carbon, etc. So you're going to have all these vertically integrated supply chains and resilient economies. You know what that does when you have to try to build that stuff? Prices go screaming higher. Because instead of having one factory in China making 9 billion iPhone cases, you have now 50 factories all around the world, each with their own infrastructures and costs and whatever. And so I think you're going to reflate the world. I don't know when it happens, but that's sort of the biggest risk to all of what we do, is that all of a sudden, real rates go to like 6 or 7%. And then all of a sudden, you're not going to look at a company trading at 50 times earnings and say, you're going to question that.
I think we're accruing these unpayable deficits and debts and obligations. And, all this money has to be paid back at some point that the U.S. government's incurring. I mean, there's a California version of this where we've accrued $1 trillion of pension obligations that we have no ability to pay. So yeah, I mean, I think that eventually it translates into inflation, but I think it translates into something even worse, which is at some point people become skeptical about loaning money to the U.S. government, and because they don't want the U.S. to be able to just print dollars to pay back these loans, and the U.S. dollar stops becoming the world's reserve currency. I think the reason why we're seeing Bitcoin go to the moon right now is people are starting to speculate on the idea that this might be the future world reserve currency because it's not subject to manipulation by central banks. And let's think like that world looks, if you think about like a world in which the US dollar is not the world's reserve currency anymore, in which the government is basically broke. I mean, it's pretty scary to think about.